That is the big question now with Mike Vrabel's coaching staff. Who is going to run the offense? Because one of the bigger tasks Mike Vrabel inherits, at least early on here in his Patriots coaching career, is continuing the development of Drake Maye. And Vrabel talked about this at his press conference on Monday, kind of said, look, I'm going to teach him, situational football, game management, things like that, but also talked about how important it is to put good people around a young quarterback and how important that is to their development. So I don't think you're going to have Mike Vrabel out there teaching like mechanics or things like that. That's going to come down to the offense coordinator, the quarterback's coach, maybe the same person as it kind of was last year with Alex Van Pelt. We do have a couple of interviews now. These happened, one happened during the week, was reported on Friday, and then we got the other one yesterday. So they've talked to Thomas Brown, who's the interim head coach of the Chicago Bears, and was their offensive coordinator, and I think started as their quarterback coach. He got that interim promotion a couple times this year in that mess that was Chicago, but by all accounts, he did a pretty good job for what that situation was. And then they talked to Chargers pass game coordinator Marcus Brady. So both these guys are from the Frank Reich tree. That's some Andy Reid influence, that kind of West Coast air raid system. Wouldn't be a terrible fit for Drake Maye. It's not the same as what he ran last year, but there's certainly carryover. I think there's certainly connection there. Do you want a first-time OC? Do they call Frank Reich, who this is his system, and maybe these guys will be on staff? You're in the clip there. Josh McDaniels is still viewed as the favorite. That obviously would be a very different system. A lot of different ways they can go here. I don't know that there's one definitive right answer. There's certainly some that are better than others. Where are you at with the offensive coordinator search here, Cerrone?
Well, it seems to me Josh McDaniels' name is being passed around similar to the way Vrabel's name was before the Patriots made the hire. Almost like it's not a done deal, but he's at the top of the list. And I understand that McDaniels as a coordinator has been good. We've seen the Mac Jones thing. We go back and forth on who gets all the credit with that, but he was here when it happened. He was here when they scored a ton of points with Mac Jones. Running game was great. Passing game was above average. Made the playoffs, so you got to give him credit for that. I mean, as a head coach, you've seen the McDaniels thing, but as a coordinator, I think he'd be pretty good. And my only question is, no matter what coordinator they bring in, how much are you changing around Drake Maye? Is he going to come into this year and almost be like a rookie again because he has to relearn different things and different systems? How much are you going to change what you've already taught him? Are you going to Or are you going to build on what he's already learned and say, okay, now that you've learned this part, we're going to take this to this level. We're going to expand what you've already done. And I think that's the key, no matter what coordinator you bring in, is are you hitting the reset button with Drake Maye in this offense and completely changing everything? Or are you kind of helping it grow bigger and further than what you thought? I mean, the kid didn't come in until halfway through October or whatever. Right. So he never really he wasn't getting 100% of the starter reps. I mean, we saw Jayden Daniels was given the keys from day one, and he was running that offense like crazy up until now he's going to NFC Championship game. But I think there's something to having a system in place early on to help this kid get through. That way, come September, he already knows everything in and out. And I'm just wondering, whoever they bring in, are they going to start making drastic changes to where he has to basically start over again? And I don't know if that's good for his development.
Well, the nice thing is should have full training camp, which obviously he didn't have last year. He was split in time, which Cobra said. I understand why he did that. I'm not saying it was wrong, but this year he's going to get the full go to prepare. And I think that's what you weigh, right? So with Josh McDaniels, the pro is sustainability and proven process. We know his offense works. It worked here for a long time. It worked here beyond Tom Brady. He got with Mac Jones as a rookie. They were the 6th highest scoring team in the league. And then he left, and obviously they really haven't recovered since. But they were the 6th highest scoring team in the league with Mac Jones at quarterback as a rookie. He also had, honestly, what I think is more relevant is the 2020 offense that he did with Cam Newton. Now, was that offense spectacular? No. But you look at their number one receiver was Damiere Byrd. Their number one tight end was Ryan Izzo. Cam, deserves a ton of credit for that year for doing what he could, but he was cooked. Like, let's be honest, he was done at that point. But they still had their moments, and in that year, why I think that year is particularly relevant is you saw he has an ability to develop a quarterback run game. It's maybe not as intricate as some of these other coaches, but it's there and it's functional. And honestly, that's kind of all you need it to be, I think, for Drake Maye at this point. You don't want him running too much. We saw that last year. So kind of proven product, that, and he's not a flight risk, right? If he somehow gets another head coaching job, that is going to be
good for him.
Well down the road. And at that point, Drake Maye should be off and running and you're good, right? The flip side, but he runs very different offense, and it is going to be almost like, I like the way you put it, Cerrone, kind of like another rookie year for Drake Maye. Now, the flip side is you go find one of these West Coast coaches. There's a bunch of them out there. Some of the guys they've talked to would be examples. Josh McCown in Minnesota, who was Drake Maye's coach in high school, somebody you could look at. Clint Kubiak, who's been getting a bunch of interviews. You go on and on and on. There's a whole list. You're going to keep Drake Maye in that system that he's been in. You maybe if you get one of these like Andy Reid, Frank Reich tree offense coordinators, you get an offense that's built for to have a little bit more explosive plays. But now it's really on if we're able to have that pipeline, because if you hire somebody like Josh McCown or Marcus Brady, he's going to be gone probably in 2 to 3 years. I don't
if
think
it works, he's gone.
Right. A lot of people are like, you only have 1 year. That's being a little dramatic to me. I think if the offense is so good that the coordinator's gone in 1 year, man, wouldn't it suck watching offense that's that good, Cerrone? What a problem that would be. What a major issue that would be, right? Like Ben Johnson was there for 3 years. So you have a couple years, but it is like shorter term. And you are going to need that pipeline. You're going to need that next guy up. And the Patriots had that for years and years and years here, right? It went from Charlie Weiss to Josh McDaniels to Bill O'Brien. They did it on the defensive side as well. They built up and up and up. So that pipeline becomes crucial. And now it's not just who are you hiring as the offensive coordinator, but are you going to have a pass game coordinator? You're going to have a run game coordinator? Who's your quarterback's coach? Who's your tight ends coach? Like these guys in positions to potentially be the next offensive coordinator after whoever you hire leaves. So, if it's me, I understand why McDaniels is the favorite. The big question for me in that room, though, would be like, okay, we saw you design a quarterback run game in 2020. What more to that is there, right? I think they were limited by personnel. They were limited by practice time, right? It was the COVID year.
COVID year, yeah.
How much more is there to that? Like, if he gives you a satisfactory answer on that, I think it becomes, I trust Drake Maye to be able to pick up that offense in a full offseason. I'm not too worried about that. But if he's like, yeah, we're not going to run Drake Maye a ton, then maybe I start talking to some of these West Coast guys. Because if you're not going to do that, well, now you kind of, where's your run game come from? You want to stick maybe more in that West Coast thing.
Yeah, and I think after, what we're seeing across the NFL, you got the big game tonight with the Ravens and Bills. I'm going to say they run the same offenses, but the quarterback being able to move is a huge
quarterback
threat.
Run game is central to it.
It's huge. Last night, Washington put on a clinic in running that type of offense against it. And the Detroit was really short-handed defensively. We understood. We knew that going in, but we didn't know this team was capable of dropping a 50-burger on them, which they could have easily last night. That type of system with these type of quarterbacks coming in who played this stuff throughout high school, they're doing it throughout college. Drake Maye, we see how good he is in the open field when he gets on the move and is already a threat. But I think you do have to have some kind of element there of a QB run game. And that's a great point by you. You brought it with the Cam Newton year. I kind of put down on them about that, but that is a great point that they changed that offense on the fly to fit Cam Newton. And once he started getting banged up and Edelman got hurt that year and they started losing pieces, it kind of fell apart as time went on. But I think the ability for McDaniels to switch it up like that with that type of offense, which we didn't, that was a huge question mark coming in with Cam Newton. Yeah. But can he run this type of Patriot offense? But instead, they ran an offense that kind of fit him. And if he has the ability to adapt like that with this quarterback and kind of jump in and out based on the opponent, I think that'd be a good little wrinkle for this Patriots team and Drake Maye.
And I forgot this too. So it's not only, I think you said like on the fly they had to do it. It's not like they signed Cam in March and then we're building it out all spring. I forgot about this. They signed him. I knew it was later. It was July 8th.
Mm-hmm.
So really late in that process. And that's the thing I love about McDaniels is adaptability, right? Mm-hmm. We talk about offensive systems, and a lot of that, people think that means like what plays you're calling. It's as much kind of verbiage as it is anything else, especially with a guy like McDaniels. His bag's as deep as anybody's.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I think a lot of people are down on McDaniels in New England. I think, one, because they remember him as a head coach, which you're not hiring him as a head coach. And two, I think because there's some, like, they remember being frustrated with him at times, which is valid. He's not a perfect offensive coordinator. When I look at it big picture, though, the warts in his philosophy, to me, are worth putting up with. Yeah, he gets overly conservative on third down sometimes. I don't love his play sequencing at times, but his bag is as deep as anybody's.
Mm-hmm.
He can. You want to run power, gap, zone. The passing game concepts. It's expansive, and it's not going to be as expansive with Drake Maye, at least not in year one, as it was with Tom Brady at the end. You're going to build to that, but he can go in a number of different directions, and he does a tremendous job of adapting the offense to fit the personnel at hand. And I think that might be valuable for a Patriots team that's going to be moving a lot of pieces personnel-wise the next few years.
Yeah, and I think one key thing, man, with him, there's pros and cons with all these guys you bring in. You bring in somebody who's really unknown. You don't know how he's going to respond to certain situations. You don't know how he's going to respond personally. What kind of person he is when he gets, in tough situations. You don't know how you're going to deal with them during the week, during training camp, during a long season. One thing with McDaniels, you do know what you're going to get with him and Vrabel is these guys know each other. The ownership knows this guy. Everybody in the building knows this guy, and they know how he's going to respond. Him and the rest of the coaching staff, they know what he's thinking of along this drive, or what he's going to do when he gets in certain situations, what he's going to do on the goal line, what he's going to do in the red zone, midfield, that decision making. You know what he's going to do as a coaching staff, so you're comfortable with that to the point where Vrabel doesn't have to look over his shoulder and question and worry. How's he going to respond? I know what he's going to do. I'm not worried about that. And I think having a guy in there that you already know, and you already know his tendencies, yet we know his goods and bads. We know he can get on your nerves with this or that, but I know what he's thinking in this situation. And I think that goes a long way to just being an efficient team that doesn't make the bonehead mistakes, like you said, on third down or in the red zone, things that this team just shot themselves in the foot with last year. I think you can eliminate all that just having somebody there that you actually know and know what he's thinking in key situations.